All right, this morning, at this point, the All-Kalau litmus test is what we're looking at, and it's everybody seemed to have been on test with this by-election, whether it was the electoral body, whether it was political parties, whether it was candidates, whether it was those who supported them, whether it was the people. Everybody seemed to have been on test here. And that's kind of what we're looking into this hour. Joining us in this conversation at this point is the program coordinator of ELOG, which is the Elections Observation Group, Marcus Agenga. Good morning, Marcus.
Good morning.
Karibu sana. Good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Njeri Kahiga is also singing a song of celebrations of war. The national youth leader, a national youth leader is here with us this morning, and she has been passed about this whole week, but then she is settling, and she this time does not have a back against the ropes. Good morning, Njeri.
Good morning.
How are you?
Feeling very good this morning.
Okay.
It is a good morning for we as winners as DCP party. We feel very happy. We appreciate that finally the people of this country have seen how the people of the mountain deal with this rogue regime. And we are hoping that you people will learn and catch up within the remaining 8 months, so that finally in 2027 we can take this rogue government home. And we are also appealing to them that they don't come for the gas cylinders, the boat, the mattresses. Our people are living in fear that at any time usikie mlango umegongewa uambiwe leta ile mattress tulikupatia.
Wow.
But we are very pleased to tell the government that now we need an audit report. You need to account for every shilling you brought to Nyandarua. You need to tell us how these tenders were awarded, the boreholes you drilled, who was awarded, what was their location, how did they go through the procurement process. Now we need accountability of the 16 billion they spent in Nyandarua.
Okay, well, she's shooting from all cylinders, no pun intended, this morning. So let's get into that conversation. But before we do that, Dennis is going to share today's proverb.
Yeah, a proverb comes from Libya, and I'll just go straight into the proverb. The tongue has no bone, but it's strong enough to break a heart. The tongue has no bone, but it's strong enough to break a heart. Marcus, how would you interpret it?
Well, the way I see it, it would mean that the tongue has the power to elicit a reaction that would cause serious heartache. Yeah, so while of course a bone would punch you and you have a physical pain, but the heart in terms of words would elicit and actually bring about an ache at a very emotional level. That's how I see it.
Njeri, how would you interpret it?
I would interpret it to simply mean with the current state of this country, whereby this regime has always used its tongue to mock the people of this country, and people, despite the harsh economic crisis that they are facing every day, they have again to deal with the emotional torture from this government that ridicules them every morning, from this government that has made it its business to remind them of how they are going to torture them, how they are going to make it hard for them, for their businesses, make it hard for their health sector, make it hard for education sector. So I think that if I was to interpret it even wider to the executive, I would tell him maybe it's time that he tames the tongue of his regime. That way the hearts of the Kenyans will maybe get softer for him, because as your newspaper reads today, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. It's the Kenyan people. You see, sometimes even if you do me injustice, I can sometimes be lenient with you depending on how you engage me after the injustice. But you cannot do injustice to people of the country, then again insult them, then again call them names, then again speak with so much opulence and show them that there's nothing they can do.
Well said and interpreted.
Indeed. We'll start with you, Marcus, as the coordinator of the Elections Observation Group, which you're present in all elections that will take place, at least for in Kenya. And this was one. An overview of what this looks like. I remember having a conversation with you a few months ago, and we were looking at other by-elections, and you said, well, a brand new IEBC then had a lot to prove. Has that gotten better over the last few months, and are there still indictments laying on the neck of the IEBC?
Thank you very much for having me. And I think it's good to remember and recall the conversation we had when the IBC had just been set up. And of course, I think this could be their third election. We had the November by-elections, and of course, that was their first by-election. And a number of things have happened from an observer's point of view. I think these guys have, ILOG has always made the distinction between the technical aspects of an election and the political aspects of an election. So at a technical level, ILOG, and if you read our statement on the eve of election, we commended IEBC for the technical preparations in terms of preparing their personnel to manage those elections, undertaking voter education in Ol Kalou. Of course, provision of strategic materials were done in good time. So at a technical level, the IBC has done a commendable job. Even administratively speaking, of course, you are aware that in our statement, the ELOC chairperson declared the pre-election environment as heavily compromised. And of course, that was because of course, we cited incidents relating to vote buying, voter inducement, campaign disruptions and violence. And of course, with those things, we felt that the pre-election environment was somewhat compromised in terms of failing to meet the threshold of what we would call like a free and fair pre-election environment. But of course, what happened, these are election offences, which must be investigated. IBC has no power to investigate election offences. As you are aware, with the passage of Election Offences Act in 2016, the power to prosecute was passed on to the office of the ODPP as a power then to investigate and then prosecute. But then they recourse to an administrative action by slapping an MP with a 2.5.
But maybe before we get to the to the cons, you see, we pride ourselves to be a constitutional state. And of course, we are guided, as you rightly put it, by the electoral regulations that we have. So there are various parameters that we look at for us to come out and say, yes, we've had a free, fair, and credible electoral process, whereby now the winners can say, this was okay, and the losers can equally come out and say, we lost fairly. So when you look at those key players, because you have now the institution, the IBC, you have the voter, who is a major stakeholder who is always overlooked, but is the determinant of all this process and outcome. You also have like the security agencies. You have yourselves as the observers, which is just an element of goodwill to oversee the process. How would you rate the performance of now all these stakeholders, devoid of the political parties, because also even them, they are key players, they're the ones who are campaigning for their candidates. How would you rate our performance on a scale of 0 to 9 in terms of compliance with the same laws we have set for ourselves?
Well, in terms of the major players,
yes,
for this.
So you have the conduct of the voter, you have the security agencies, the political parties, the institutions.
So in terms of, if I would, so let me go stage by stage.
Okay.
So in terms of the voter, elections belong to the people.
Right.
So elections, as I said, is a celebration of human rights, especially the political rights. So to the extent that the people turned out yesterday in the numbers that they did, and for me in a by-election, that was commendable. I think it was a celebration of their fundamental rights to make a decision. So in terms of showing up to vote, I think I would give them, where 9 is the highest, I would give them probably 7. That's my take.
Right.
In terms of political actors, both sides, Njeri, for DCP and UD and other political actors, a number of them were involved. There were parts where DCP was a victim, as you read our statement, where their campaign materials were vandalized, their rallies were disrupted. The same thing with the UDA. So in terms of the political actors, I would give them I would give them a 3. A 3 out of 9. Yeah, I would give that because of while these have not been really investigated, but from what ILOG has documented, the disruptions, the inducement, the bribery, violence, they were attributed to all the political actors in the area, at least what our observer reports indicate. So in terms of the election management bodies, IEBC is just one of them. For example, these allegations, these offences that are being alleged, DCP is having a rally, it's disrupted. The campaign materials are vandalized, and vice versa, and of course other political parties. This must be investigated. So then that's why ILO called on relevant body, in this case ODPP, to investigate. I think maybe investigation takes time, but in an election where people want to have immediate outcomes, I think there's need to speed up the process. So I would give ODPP maybe 2 out of 9. I would give IBC, I don't know what Njeri would say, but I would give IBC probably maybe a 7 out of 9. Like I was saying, administratively, technically they've done a good job. Everything went as was planned. They even, of course, they have a power. I mean, there's a committee on the code of conduct, and they slapped a member of parliament, the 2.5, for some of these claims. They went to court and he received a reprieve, so he never paid it. So at least it attempted to do something. So I would give IBC about 7 out of 9.
So some areas of improvement as we head to the general election. Now, Njeri, it is yesterday. It was the deputy president birthday. You decided to gift him from Olkalau. A huge loss. Huge is the word. And I don't know how that speaks in your own interpretation. Because he came out in the build-up of the campaign saying that he's going to meet your party leader in Olkalau and they're going to battle it out. Well, battle prevailed and the outcome is here. So that is one. And perhaps you could just respond to that.
First of all, I want to tell the deputy president that happy birthday from the DCP winners. Sometimes, we have to stay with the fact that there's nothing much you could do. First of all, I feel it was so cowardly of him to, be just thumping about how he's going to come deal with my boss and party leader, Rigathi Gachagua, in Olkalau. Yet the whole time during the 90 days, he was nowhere to be seen. And it was very unfortunate of him to discuss how he's going to come and battle it out with His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua when we were still mourning the death of our former member of parliament. So for me, I want to tell the deputy president, it's time that you pack your bags. This guy will not make you a deputy president next time. You could not even deliver at least 10K. Right now, if I give you 5,000 to, the difference between our votes and their vote is a whole 30,000. It's a whole salary. Ya mtu mahali.
Yeah.
The votes they got, 5,440. Ni 5,000 na mingine ya kutoa. You see, if I give you 5,000 right now, you go to a supermarket, you don't even need a shopping bag. So you can imagine how humiliating it is, considering the budget they spent. For the last 90 days, ministers, PSs, the whole government was in Olkalau. It was so bad that we had even decided now we have to be very territorial. Ile hoteli wanakula na ile hoteli DCP nakula. In terms of just a normal restaurant, those guys used to feel all fancy, high-end accommodations. Some of us had to sleep in very accommodations we would not even want the public to see, because these guys were so bossy all over. Wakona Maran Cruisers na Kimbia. Yani, these people, we are just trying to show people that, we're going to show you how we deal with you. But then again, I think the people of Olkalau, just like it happens in Nairobi, wameamua kukula fair. So wanakula fair president, hawajali.
The follow-up question I wanted to make, and even if you look at the numbers, if they spent around $500 million in Olkalau, it would mean for every vote they got,
they spent more than $1 billion.
Yeah, saying working with $500 million, so just to be fair, it would mean every vote was 100,000.
Yeah.
So that's something I would want ELOG to comment on. But my follow-up question to you was, this is not the first time the people of Olkalau are rejecting William Ruto.
Yeah.
The late MP was a Jubilee member.
Yeah.
So in 2022, they rejected IUDA candidate, and because they did not want to affiliate, assumably so, with the party leader of the UDA, with William Ruto, the outgoing president. So there is an argument that this may not be a win per se for DCP, but it is just a confirmation of the rejection of the outgoing President William Ruto by the people of Ol Kalou.
First of all, I have to be, the late member of parliament,
Right.
who, because during 2022 I was part of the Azimio coalition and I was in Jubilee. I have to tell you that for him, party politics, there are leaders in office who party politics will never be a reason for them to win or lose in politics. There are people who lost with UDA. There are people who won with other parties. For the late MP, for him, they loved him as David Keraho. They loved him as an individual. His politics was quite generous. His deeds were deeds that people of Ol Kalou will remember for so long. Him as a person, he did not even have a problem with the fact that I'm in DCP and he's affiliated to government. He was a very respectable leader. For him, when he won against the now member of parliament, Sami Ngodho, it was not about rejecting William Ruto. It was more of people just being honest and saying, this is our guy, we have to give him another chance. You see, doing 3 terms is not a joke in a county like Nyandarua, where most people do only 1 term. And for him, I think that if he was still alive to 2027 election, maybe because of how sick he had gotten, maybe he would not even have vied. But I am very sure he would have given direction that the people of Ol Kalou would have felt we can maybe listen to him. So for him, it was purely an individual win in 2022. And again, the people of Ol Kalou still overwhelmingly voted for William Ruto, because I think we only got like 60,000 votes as Watu wa Baba. And one thing I can tell you, the people of Nyandarua, is that party politics in Nyandarua has a big convincing power. And this time, I hope that the members of parliament who are still aligned to UDA in the mountain have read the writings on the wall. And I am hoping that they can now start to shift. Ni wakati wa kuhama sasa. Mtu alipe akalia deposit, ujue vile utahama. Because the people of Mount Kenya, we are very categorical. You know, when I was doing campaigns for the current now MP, I've been in Ol Kalou for the last 2 months. People used to call from as far as US, UK. They would tell us, if anything you guys need, tell us what it is. You guys must deliver. The people of Kiambu, the people of Waji, everywhere, we used to get calls from all over the country, and even in diaspora. People are so agitated about this regime that they were willing to do anything possible within their powers to ensure that DCP delivers this seat. And I can tell you the fact that my party leader never showed up even one day, because he believes in young people. That campaign that was headed by my senator and the member of parliament of Kipipiri, me and along other young people, is just a demonstration that young people can deliver. Because you can imagine, we were head on with the CSs. We were dealing with the likes of Moses Kuria. At Moses Kuria, when he deals with my candidate, it is me who is supposed to respond to him. So I think it is time that this nation agrees that everybody is tired with William Ruto. But again, we must be very careful not to just vote out and vote in garbage. We have to ensure we do quality leaders. And you see, for somebody like Sami, who has been a member of county assembly, I am very sure he's very well versed with the fact how he can make laws, how he can be a good oversight person. And I am a believer that for the next 8 months, even if the people of Nyandarua voted somebody who is not in government, I have seen leaders who have delivered without being in government. Women Rep Kirinyaga is a good example that you can be number 1 as a woman rep in this country without you having to be in government. Senator Kirinyaga, who is in opposition, is another example. Member of
although they
parliament,
remain UDA members, just for the record.
Legally they remain members, but you see, sometimes you can just be affiliated to a family. It's just like we are in a divorce case. I'm still your wife, but now you see we are in court on divorce. We move on.
Marcus, now, when we look at the Ol Kalou by-election and the freeness, the fairness, right, the verification of it all comes into question because, like I keep saying, election is a process. So we have to look at how we ended up at the voting day. And with that, then there is bribery that we saw, there is intimidation, there is violence, and abrogation of election laws. So with the results that we saw then, how do we rate that? Because if you talk about free, how free was free when free we didn't see? How fair was it when we saw a government hand and investments deeply against the law into it? So with the lessons that we have seen today, what must IEBC do together with other agencies to give Kenyans the free, fair and transparent election?
Thank you very much. This is something that is, I think we must have as Kenyans. And as you all recall, there were talks in town that the IBC would postpone these elections, given the emotive nature of the pre-electoral environment. There were serious allegations, of course, regarding, like I said, voter bribery, regarding inducement, of course, violence. And with all these things, of course, then there were calls from other sectors. Could IBC, could they have postponed these elections? But then the question then we ask ourselves, what is the threshold? How much violence do you need to postpone an election? How much voter bribery do you need to postpone an election? How much is enough to postpone an election? So when you and how much violence is required to postpone an election? So this raises very serious questions from where I sit as an election observer. The threshold that is required to call off an election, but also when you call an election, when you postpone an election, what happens to the voters themselves in terms of their right to exercise and to be represented? So I think this is a conversation that we must have as a country moving forward. If what we saw in Olkalau is something that could be taken in the future, because some of you are aware of the Kofi Annan report that came out recently, 84% likelihood of violence, and of course Kenya is one of those countries, and even in our own ELOG PA analysis, we think that violence is almost inevitable. I think the questions about, so I think you're right in terms of saying that the results is as good as the process that led there.
Yeah.
So that even when people are celebrating a win, we must also ask ourselves, was the win arrived at in a manner that meets the threshold? So I think, to me, to just answer your question directly, it is a difficult discussion to have. The law is very clear that if an election to be free and fair, it must meet certain thresholds. Free of violence. We ask ourselves, was Olkalau free of violence? That's the question we ask ourselves. It wasn't. So in terms of the constitutional threshold, I don't think it met it.
Okay, we continue with that this morning. And so just starting with you, Marcus, before we come to Njeri, to ask her, what were people actually making decision about? How much... on so many counts. So when we talk about violence, and we saw what happened to journalists yesterday, by whom till now we are still unaware of who it actually was. What is needed for you to then say, well, okay, somebody was beat up at a polling station and their equipment was destroyed, and that is enough for you to say this is unacceptable for somebody to step in and do something about it. We had the IEBC themselves pronouncing themselves about what would be voter bribery or not. Two of them, Alutalala, but more at this point, Commissioner Njeri said, well, not some are handout, some is not bribery.
Yeah.
What's the threshold for you to say, okay, well, if it's water tanks, it's bribery. If it's just cooking gas, then it's not. How do you do that? Because if this is what we saw happening in Olkalau, you can just imagine, because yes, it is a litmus test, you can just imagine what is going to happen around the country in the next 7 months or so. So who then entrenches threshold?
I think this is where the law is unclear. They say the law is clear.
In this case, it's not.
I think in this case, it's unclear. That I think it gives the IEBC the power to postpone an election when, of course, certain criteria are met, and of course, at a personal level, if the Bill of Rights contain what you'd call a very robust rights for us to enjoy, and the right to vote is one of them. Political participation is one of them. I don't think, from where I sit, a life is worth losing in an election.
Sure.
So even to speak on our threshold of what amount of bribery would you call, therefore, this is too bad or violence or disruption, I think is, like I said before the break, it's a discussion that we need to have. We need to have it. You saw what happened in the November by-elections, where there were serious calls for the IBC to postpone elections. Olkalau was almost being postponed, but there was pressure all over the place. And even the IBC, I'm sure why they're asking themselves the same question. What is the threshold to postpone an election? Even if we did postpone an election, what happens to the voter? What happens to the voter? So,
Sorry.
Sure.
What happened to the voter when an entire election result was annulled in 2017?
Yes.
Whereby you say we cannot allow this kind of thing to happen, and the Supreme Court established itself as, let's not mess with the issue here.
Yeah.
Get it right once, or we put the thing down and you have to do it again.
That's
the voter
right.
did not die.
Yeah.
Granted, not as many people went to vote in the second round as they did in the first. But if you're going to insist that things be done right, perhaps there is at some point where somebody must bell the cat and bell it unequivocally.
That's right.
So who does that?
I think in this case, there is still room for someone to go to court like someone did in 2017. I mean, while the IBC did not postpone these elections, if, for instance, like I said, the allegations, using the ILOG statement, for instance, that spoke about serious violations of undocumented, what you'd call like very serious electoral offences, if these were to be investigated and culprits found, and whether it is the winner or the loser, and prosecution held, what would then happen to the winner, assuming he was found to have committed electoral offences or the people? So I agree with you that I think the truth is that if you want to bring order, it starts now. It's like Maraga did in 2017. Will there be someone bold enough in Olkalau or in other Kenyan to go to court and say, because a number of observation reports, including IBC's own admission, that the pre-election environment was visibly compromised? What does it mean for the results?
But Marcus, then one would argue, at the point that we are having to seek judicial intervention on this electoral process, it would mean that the process has been compromised. It will mean that if lives were threatened, they have been lost. It will mean property has been vandalized and destroyed. So it is not a relief per se, because you're out here trying to correct a mistake on some damages that we cannot reverse, because you cannot reverse a life that has been taken. Some property damage also, they cut so deep. There is no telling on how the ramifications can play out. And also, most importantly, the voter loses confidence in the electoral process.
That's right.
And the institutions that are involved therein. So, therefore, in my opinion, I am thinking that it should not be about somebody being bold enough to go to court after the results have been announced. It should not be about what's going to happen to the winner when the certificate is cancelled. It should be about, from the onset, the political parties need to behave. Because you realize the political parties are the key players.
Correct.
They're the ones who feel the candidate or the aspirant at that point. They're the ones who know the conduct of the aspirant. They're the ones who are moving around with goons. They're the ones who are dishing out money and occupying luxurious hotels. The over expenditure, although the over is neither here nor there, but the political parties are the key players. Shouldn't we now begin, as the electorate, as the voter, begin to tell the aspirants that we need to vote for, that if you are with this party, because of how unregulated they come out, we are not going to vote for you. You need to align with a party that, one, speaks to our needs, that starts on an ideology that we subscribe to, and therefore, if you want to serve us, because we are seeking to employ people, this is not an issue of leadership, it's an issue of employment. Kenyans are seeking to employ people who will deliver services using our taxes. Is it about time we start having that conversation and the voter realizing that they're the key players? They can dictate the kind of ideologies that will be on the ballot and the people who will be behind those ideologies.
That's right. I agree. I think you make a very valid point, but there is also supply and demand. So who are the people receiving handouts in Olkalau? They were the voters.
Right.
At no point did they return well, I'm not aware, any gasoline that was, maybe they did return, but who were the people receiving monies? They were, I mean, if you saw our report, there were the 330 meetings. You know, they would come in, divide into 3 threes and give you 1,000 shillings to divide. So while I agree that there is need for political hygiene, because we are a multi-party democracy. So political parties play a very critical role in our democracy. So an hygienic party conduct is important. And if Kenyans, and I want to commend the people of Olkalau, the fact that there was heavy investment with goodies, they still made a decision that we will not, while, and guys say, you know, these are your monies anyway, just take them. I don't know if that's true, but they are your monies, they argue. Take the money and then vote whoever you want. So if it is true that the government weighed down on them and they still, I think for me it's commendable. So it goes to what you are saying, that Kenyans are saying, we will eat because of need. Well, most guys need money. Some guys can't even afford 3 meals in a day. So if you're going to give me 330 and then the other part, there were 9 candidates. So assuming they were all working, giving us 330, in a day I would go home with like miatano and I get some food on the table. So I would take the money. So so I feel like in functional democracies, political parties are even fined for one of the members misbehaving, whether a member or a candidate misbehaving. In Kenya, this is not. We have not yet gotten there. So we will reward bad leaders. They become our leaders, whether they're bad or they're good. They're our people. So we reward them by electing them. We reward them by going on the streets to defend them. So in the future, I think for me, my call here is that political hygiene is important. Good manners within the parties is important, but also even ourselves as voters, that rejecting handouts, because I can't sell my birthright, my future for 330 shillings, even though I need money to eat.
And Njeri, then the question then comes, what is the responsibility of political parties in vetting those that they are fielding to Wananchi to carry their flag, in ensuring that, first of all, they are individuals who are clean, so background checks have been done, they've gone through, if it's carry, to ensure that they pay their taxes, EACC has cleared them, certificate of good conduct is there. What is the role of political parties in ensuring that? And even with these elections then, have we voted out President William Ruto's party? Have we rejected President William Ruto? Or have we voted in an individual who is accepted by the constituents in all Kalau to come and better their lives, to deliver to them? And does this also show that the president has lost grip of the mountain?
As a young person, I always say that I don't want to be the kind of leader that those people who are in their past millennials have been. I want to be a very honest leader. And it is not practically possible for political parties to be a filter of our leaders. One, because we are a country that still has not embraced that citizens should fund their political parties. Our political parties are funded by anybody who has interest in politics. The Kenyan voter has not come out properly or embraced funding political parties like we see in the US, where, you know, it's them funding budget and everything else. So political parties, as of today, I would say, are held hostage in most cases because they cannot do anything. You guys need 100 mic. I have the 100 mic. Where I get it from, you don't even have the choice to pick where I get it from.
But political parties can make the conscious decision to be that sieve and say, please give us proof of the origin of your money for us to have you as our member, because the responsibility then lies with the parties, one would say.
Yeah, I know that. That is what should be there. Legally, that is what political parties should do. But I've always said I want to be an honest leader. The Kenyan voter has put politicians and the political parties at a place where they have to have money to come to the Kenyan voter sometimes. In the case of Nyandarua County, it was literally not about money, because it was people pouring out their frustrations. But come 2027, again, the game of money will play out, because I'll have to go to nominations, because I am vying for Women Rep Nyandarua County. So I'll have to go for nominations. Within these nominations of the party, I'll have to go to the people. I'll have to spend money. I'll have to have logistics. So I think as much as political parties should have these filters, the Kenyan voter must also upgrade. He must raise the bar for himself as a voter to ensure that he can personally fund a political party with his own money, so that tomorrow he can ask a party, why are you taking money from somebody who has a corruption case? Why are you taking money from somebody who has a criminal case? But again, if this voter is still receiving money, is still asking me as Njeri Kahiga, unatuacha aje? Is still asking me, za macho ziko wapi? This voter lacks again the moral authority to ask political parties where you get your money from.
And does it come from a place of lack of understanding, or that, this person is not to ask, you're not to ask this person for something in order to give them your vote? Because that goes to the original question, and perhaps the answer to this could answer both. What were the people of Ol Kalou voting for yesterday?
The people of Ol Kalou, first of all, in 2022, Sami was just a young man who was told, you can rise up to the occasion. And he garnered 19,000 votes. And that could tell you that people saw leadership in him that time. The only difference was that he did not get enough votes to be a leader that time. But there were 19,000 people who saw some leadership in him, despite the fact that he only did campaigns for maybe 3 months, because he was a last-minute thought for the UDA party. This time, the people of Nyandarua County, one, were giving a leader to the people of Ol Kalou themselves. But also, again, they wanted to be very categorical that you can be a leader, but you need to be where the people are. You see, unfortunately, when we talk of democracy, we don't talk about the democracy of which particular people. It is the democracy of the people. So if the people decide that our political party in Nyandarua County is DCP party, then you have to align yourself with the party that your people want you to go represent them with.
So what were they voting for, Njeri? Because by your own admission, the same gentleman put himself up in 2022, and he was rejected. Look, when you don't win an election, in the majority you've been rejected by the people. Not enough people accepted you to then make you a leader.
I agree.
So what has changed in 2026 that they have said, okay, fine, let's give it to you? It goes back to my question. It is not who the people of Ol Kalou are voting for, but there is something they voted for, and I'm trying to figure out what that is.
First of all, you see, as a first-time aspirant in Nyandarua County, very few people, actually, nobody has vied for the first time and gotten an MP seat, maybe one or two.
Okay.
So it is a culture, or maybe it is just how hard politics is. Because you see, when you're a young person, again, funding a campaign is not easy. So you are cut short with so many other instances. But I have to tell you that the people of Ol Kalou voted in a leader. He's an intellect. He's a leader who knows what he's supposed to do in Bunge. And number two, they voted for a political party. They decided to tell William Ruto that this man that you humiliated, impeached, after we gave him as your deputy president, we have decided to also be part of the people that tell you that that was a terrible mistake politically. And number two, this is our son in the mountain. And people were sending a message to the president that, you know what, the next time you come and ask for our votes, you better stick to your word of keeping our votes, bringing development, and doing what you should do as a president. And if you guys up there collide, you don't have to involve us as a mountain to make us, feel like we did a mistake by voting you in. Remember, William was given so many votes in the mountain. And yesterday, by this morning, where he has gotten only 12%, that shows out of our 8 million votes, he can only garner 1 million, and the same amount that Baba got last time. But it is a clear indication that the mountain has gone. And in future, we as the mountain, because again, sometimes we have to agree that our politics in the mountain is quite very local, extremely local to the last man. We have to agree that the people of the mountain don't want leaders who will go out there and forget that we, the voters, are the powerful people who have placed you in power.
So how crucial or how significant was Rigath's ouster from office in this election, and does this cement his position as a kingpin of the region?
First of all, it was very significant. I can tell you, every meeting that we did, we had to call both. People used to tell you, yeah, we listen to you, Njeri, but please, pigia getungati. And you know, the mountain has now, after the former president left, Uhuru Kenyatta, we have been yearning for a leader who can stand up for the people properly and face our oppressors. And Rigathi Gachagua has proved to be that leader. And I can tell you one thing for a fact. Now that the presidential conversation is ongoing at Wamonyoro, you saw a troop of people from Kipsigis, all the way from the backyard of the president, come to, tell him that, we believe in you. We hope that the future is good for you. And I can tell you, as of today, ule ni fire. We are no longer asking ni fire, see fire, ule ni fire. And again now, it has gone back to 2024 during his impeachment, where sometimes, God can use the worst scenarios to place you at a better place at the table, because when he was the deputy president, he was not embraced fully by the whole mountain, because I personally felt I wanted to vote in Martha Karua as my deputy president. But what he has done in Nyandarua, 30,000 difference for a ruling party is not a joke. So, and his presence was not even there, it was just a phone call. You can imagine how now we have improved our politics, that the party leader does not have to go somewhere. You can simply make a phone call. So we have upgraded from having to go to one person as a party leader, and as a party, we feel like, I hope Kenyan can embrace that we can agree and we do what we are supposed to do on the ballot, regardless of the voter bribery that comes up. And I have to tell my colleague here that the people of Olkalau, the mattresses that they were receiving, in our meetings, they used to bring us those mattresses. They tell us these mattresses belong to JM Hospital. They are labeled GOK, Shikeni. These gas cylinders are our taxes that are unaudited, Shikeni. And I can tell you, half the campaign money we've spent as a party has been funded by the voter of Olkalau. They used to get 1,000, they bring us 300. When they are given 500, they bring us 100. And I can tell you, there were days they even brought us 10 shillings. You can imagine how hard it was for me with my small hands to count 10 shillings until inafika 130,000 in a day. Every morning they bring us pesa, shika, 10 bob, everybody. If you see an old woman, 60 years, anafungua handkerchief, anakutolea shilingi 10, you should know the people are tired. Yesterday, if you saw the photos of the people who went to vote, people were even coming in wheelchairs. Somebody was coming, she's due for delivery, but she says, I have to vote first, then I proceed to the maternity. And that is the clarion call that the Kenyan people are going to give to the ballot in next year. And I really hope that young leaders, me and the other category of leaders, can learn something, that the voter that we had in 2022 is no longer the same voter we have right now. This voter has understood what it means to have somebody who can sell you out, what it means to have opulence. If you saw the clips of the violence they caused in Olkalau yesterday, half of our aspirants in DCP, their cars have been vandalized. Actually, right now, today, because we have a rally there, my boss, the party leader, is going to do a rally in 4 towns within Olkalau constituency. We don't even have vehicles this morning. We'll have to maneuver with small cars because gari zilivandaliziwa jana. And it is unfortunate that despite these shenanigans of violence, the difference was still 30,000. And I can tell the government that they need to tone down how they speak to the voter. They need to change their language. They need to understand that the Kenyan voter has realized his power.
Why do you need them to do that? If you want them out of office, why do you need them to tone down?
They need to tone down for the rest of the remaining 8 months. And again, you see, when I talk of government is not about the political class.
Right.
I mean even the civil servants who are sometimes sent to come do politics. When we were doing politics, I used to see them with some invoices from various ministries where they used to, do this invoicing for them to get the money that they were doing campaigns with. How are we going to audit that money? And I hope in future that we can build laws that enable a parliament to bring to accountability political parties that misuse power when they're in government, because hiyo pesa yote sasa ita.
Allow me to ask you, Njeri, you've said the voters, the people of Olkalau would bring back mattresses and cylinders. Where were you taking them upon receiving them?
For now, some were given to the hospital, JM hospital, because they are written GOK, and GOK means Government of Kenya. And you know, also they in the hospital, they also need cookers, and some of these people were sleeping on the floor.
So you donated the mattresses
Yeah,
to the...
we give them to the hospital because that is where they exactly belong. Because if you check the size of that mattress, you can tell clearly this is a hospital mattress. And unfortunately, I feel so bad for contractors who have been engaged in Olkalau because those who drill boreholes, sasa watalipwa na nani?
I think, Marcus, now as briefly in like a minute, what does this tell us as we approach to 2027, and what must we do? Because you've seen the Kofi Annan report. There is also the reports that you guys have collected so far. What must we do different for us to get it right?
I think for me, what we must do is to strengthen. So I think so. The first is the voter, what we're discussing earlier on. I think we must invest in the voter, build their capacity to demand transparent leadership, to demand transformative leadership, so that we are telling the voter that do not sell your future for handouts of 330 shillings. So investment in the voter is important. Number two, investment in the enforcement agencies. Especially in the pre-election environment, is equally important, so that we ask very serious questions about offenders. How fast can we investigate some of those claims, and how fast can they be prosecuted? So if you know someone is investigating and those that are found guilty will be prosecuted, Kenyans would be afraid. So I think we must invest in our agencies, give them more power, and but also, of course, demand them to be responsible. Lastly, oversight agencies, especially the civil society organizations, they must also be invested in, so that they're able also to provide a third eye, as it were.
Indeed. And for this conversation, of course, there are going to be very many more coming in, and because we're getting into what people say injury time in the next few months, it's going to become very clear. Thank you very much for joining us in this conversation this morning. Marcus Agenga is the program coordinator for ELOG, which is the Elections Observation Group. National Youth Leader Njeri Kahiga has also been here with us this morning. Sante Sana. We continue with these conversations, folks.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.